So Pro Tools, me and Pro Tools are not friends. Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. And for those of you who are new here, my name is Jacob Williams. I am a full-time professional music producer and composer. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects of discussion, even if I'm just talking about this topic to somebody who isn't necessarily someone in my profession or necessarily a musician for that matter, because I get asked it all the time, even from non-music makers. What is the right DAW to choose? Which DAW should you choose? Why? What is the difference between them? And we're gonna get right into it. Again, full disclosure, this is just my personal opinion. Everybody has their own opinion on it, especially if you go to the abomination of social media that is the website Reddit. You will find all kinds of opinions and all kinds of things that sway you one way or another, but I have boiled it down to one simple truth. It is not a surprise. It is not something that you're going to see and be like, oh, that is so profound, because it just makes sense. And I'm going to explain why it makes sense in this video. But we're also going to be talking about some things that I've personally experienced using a couple of DAWs, or that I've sort of heard from or seen just in videos, or people that I know that are other music producers that use other kinds of DAWs. So buckle up. This is going to be hopefully a short one. I'm going to try to keep it short, and we're just going to get right to the point. I'm not going to waste any of your guys' time on this one. A couple of things. I've heard people say your DAW choice does matter, your DAW choice does not matter. Some DAWs have more air in it. Other DAWs have more knock, like more bass, like there's more presence in your beats if you choose to use these ones. Other people say this one's better for this one's better for that, and I'm going to break it all down right now. So the simple truth of DAW choice is it doesn't matter. It never has mattered. Maybe sometimes a DAW might have a certain tool at a certain time, like we'll get into in this video. Like sometimes DAWs will be ahead of the game in terms of like having a certain feature that might help improve your workflow. But at the end of the day, all DAWs do relatively the same stuff, maybe short of a couple like flagship features or box features that are very iconic to that DAW. And so because of trademark reasons or because of branding, certain companies can't just directly steal certain concepts from other DAWs, and they have to kind of think and rework. But essentially, if you are a music maker, if you are a composer, if you are a musician, or if you are like me and you're a music producer, it does not matter what DAW you want to work in. It doesn't at all. There are some that are limited. Usually the free ones are a little limited from the paid ones, but it's kind of like choosing a software to edit video in. It doesn't matter. Or if you like drawing in Procreate versus any other software that you draw in, it really doesn't matter, short of maybe a couple of features that might help you personally, and that's your journey in terms of choosing it. So we're just going to go down the list. One of the most popular DAWs in the world, often viewed as number one, especially in the electronic music scene, we have Ableton. And I don't personally use Ableton right now for producing. I actually use it for live rigs. I use it for my passion project Opal when it comes to setting up my stuff for a live set. I have used it for live sets for as long as I can remember, even back when I was playing in bands and I was playing like lead guitar and like keyboards and stuff. I'd have to like route it all through Ableton because it just has the best rig for it, in my personal opinion and in my personal use of other DAWs. It is just as much a DAW as it is a live session rig, hence Ableton Live and the double having session view and arrangement view. I think it's a lot of fun to play with in that regard. I'm actually working on a new live rig right now, and it's so much fun. But I will say Ableton does have another strength. It's very good for sound design. It's very intuitive too. If you get into the workflow of using Ableton, it might seem daunting at first, but it's actually very simple. It's a very strong choice for if you're starting out with music and you want to kind of dive in. I think it's a really good choice. Back when I was involved very heavily with the early 2010s, mid 2010s production community, there was a lot of people that were like, hey man, I finally made the switch to Ableton. I don't know if people still talk like that on social media or in groups, or if that's even still a subject of discussion, like the switch to Ableton meme. I always say, it's justified. If you find a DAW that feels like the right choice outside of what you currently are using, then do it. Next, we're going to go into my DAW that I use right now, Logic Pro. I started using this when I went to college for learning music production and for learning composition, and I love Logic Pro. I think it's the DAW that I needed to start using back back when I started back in high school for just the stuff I wanted to do, but my journey led me here for a reason. I think Logic's great for recording. I think recording and tracking parts and comping, putting stuff into buses. I think just from the overall like arrangement side of things, Logic is really good for that. Again, all DAWs do the same thing. I'm going to say that a million times in this video, but when it comes to Logic's strengths, I'd say definitely recording and arrangement are definitely the sort of main strengths of Logic. Whenever I have to score things for movies or for video games, I can drag a video of a scene that needs my music placed in it, and I can compose directly to it. So I can shift between BPMs, I can make chord progressions that matter, I can make music hits like happen on cue so that in post they don't have to try to like work with this big score that I compose. It's literally, it goes right to the video because I composed it directly to video. I don't know if other DAWs are necessarily proficient in that. Ableton might have something with that now, but that was one of the main things about Logic that made me go, okay, this is my DAW, because I'm not just a music producer, I'm also a composer, and it definitely helps for compositional work. Next, we're going to talk about the industry giant Pro Tools. Pro Tools, me and Pro Tools are not friends. I tried to use Pro Tools back when I was learning Pro Tools in college. So long story short, I'm going to give you guys kind of a backstory here. We're going to cut in a little bit here and we're going to give you some backstory. So I started producing with FL Studio because it was just the easiest for me to learn how to make like dubstep and house music and drum and bass music back when I was in high school, like early high school, late middle school, like just when I was getting started with producing and what it was. Shout out to the demo version because I had that forever. Fast forwarding from that, I also tried to switch to Ableton multiple times and just couldn't for production. I liked it for live stuff, like I mentioned earlier, like with like launch pads and stuff, but I did not like it when it came to the actual like production workflow. I could probably hang with it now that I know more about production, but back in the day I couldn't. So I would stick with FL. And again, me and Ableton were kind of, we were acquaintances. Me and FL we were friends. Me and Ableton, we were acquaintances. Fast forward to college. That was the big shift to Logic Pro because they taught us on MacBooks and I had used PC for forever. I had to really reshape my thinking, trying to relearn 5 or 6 years at the time of experience in Logic. And the shift probably only took me like a good, well, I would say 3 years, but it was a long time to really get like as acclimated as I was with FL. Then they also tried to teach us Pro Tools. Pro Tools, in my opinion, is a dinosaur. It's very archaic. Now, that's just my personal opinion. I don't really like it. The workflow feels clunky to me. It feels old. Feels like I'm actually using a DAW from forever ago. It feels like if I go to do something simple, I'm doing it the hard way. But what I will say is if you do like Pro Tools, if you open it up and it feels professional and it feels like you, that's a good way I can describe this feeling. If it feels like you in your music creation process, like if it benefits you to use Pro Tools and you love it, what's great about it is a lot of industry professionals use Pro Tools. Let's say your goal is to be a songwriter or a producer in the higher ups of the music industry and you happen to use Pro Tools, which a lot of people do use, you'll be able to collaborate a lot easier sending Pro Tools sessions back and forth. I've had a lot of people ask me like, why don't you use Pro Tools? And I've also had a lot of other people validate like, yeah, I didn't like Pro Tools either. But again, Pro Tools was the first DAW. There is no right or wrong answer here. Just know that it is the oldest. It is the GOAT in a lot of people's eyes. I don't personally see it that way, but that's just my opinion. It is a choice. Then there's Cubase. Most notably, someone I look up to very much, Mr. Austin Hull, uses Cubase, and I think Cubase is okay. I never really had a whole lot of exposure with it, so I can't really say a lot about it. The UI looks very clean, especially in these newer versions of it. It looks like it's pretty easy to do automation and effects, as well as bus sends and stuff, which is really nice. Same thing with Logic. It actually kind of mirrors Logic in a lot of interesting ways, but kind of has its own look. I also think it has a lot of like newer export features, but I can't directly speak on them since I do not use Cubase. I've only seen footage of people using Cubase, so forgive me if I got any of that wrong, but it is an option and it looks like this. Reaper I actually used for like some weird project I was trying to do with some band back in high school. We were like some dumb like punk hardcore band, and we thought Reaper was like the one to use because it had the scythe on it, and like, yeah, no, it's just that's not a valid reason to pick Reaper. But What is a valid reason to pick Reaper is it's actually really good for automating and for processing. My wife actually uses Reaper for her voice acting career. I recommend it to you if you do a lot of recording, because it does seem very intuitive with recording specifically and arming multiple tracks. I think it's most renowned for being good for drum tracking, for arming multiple tracks and recording up to like 16 tracks. For drums, that's very hard to do in a DAW like Logic. It's actually very hard on the architecture. So if you run like a big studio and you don't want to use Pro Tools, I think a lot of people actually like using Reaper for a lot of big studio work. There are two other notable DAWs, actually three, that I could bring up right now that I don't really have like a whole bunch of knowledge on. I've just seen them, I've seen pictures of them, and that's all I can attest for. But these are options. We got Studio One from PreSonus, Bitwig Studio, and Propellerhead Reason. Again, I don't know a whole lot about them. I also haven't really met a lot of people that have used these DAWs, so I can't really attest to them being any good or any bad, but they do exist. They are options. I actually have heard that Studio One is okay. Like, there was someone I was working with that demoed a lot of his tracks using Studio One, and he got the job done. So I'm assuming it's a good DAW. We're gonna go into some free software now. Like if you're just getting started, you don't even know if you want to do music, you just want to experiment and do it as a hobby, so you don't want to invest yet, I will bring up a couple of free options. So there's Acoustica Mixcraft. Fun fact, before I decided I wanted to be a producer, I was just a kid. I was like 11 or 12 and I wanted to make music. So I started playing around in loops in a free software called Acoustica Mixcraft. Seeing the logo again when I was doing research for this video just kind of brought me some nostalgia. It's a cool little software. It sort of gave me an idea of what a DAW was like, or a music making software was like. Because I think what I did is I typed GarageBand for PC back when I was a child, and I didn't know there was a GarageBand alternative for PC, and I found it and I loved it. It was great. I'd say it's a really good starter one. BandLab. So BandLab is actually quite unique. A lot of people have been using it in my camp. I think it's very comparable to Soundtrap in the sense that it's browser-based. It's all online. It's all cloud-based too. So it's very good if you're into that kind of stuff, if you like collaborating with people via the cloud, if you don't like having a lot of files going on your computer, or if you don't want to download something on your computer. BandLab is actually pretty intuitive with that kind of stuff. I have a lot of clients actually send me BandLab files, which is great because I can just download the stems for them without them having to pack them up and send them to me and make sure they're all labeled and stuff. So BandLab has actually been quite an interesting rise in terms of its popularity. When it comes to a lot of my independent and small artist clients, they tend to lean that way because it has some very powerful tools for recording vocals and processing them. It's got some really cool stuff for guitars too, if you're looking to just get in for free and just like play around with some sounds. I think it also has a loop library too, so if you want to play around with some sounds before getting into a library like Splice or anything, you can definitely check out what BandLab has to offer. Finally, we're going to talk about the awesome, extremely goated, great option that I call my sort of second banana friend, GarageBand. We're going to talk about GarageBand. This software, I really wish I had GarageBand when I was like 10. If I had GarageBand on like someone's extra laptop they didn't want, like a MacBook or like those really old MacBooks, and I had like an old version of GarageBand, I would have been over the moon for something like that, because I wanted to like be a one-man band, and GarageBand allows you to be like just that. It's not as advanced as Logic, but people have produced whole records with GarageBand before, and I think that's incredible. They probably had the mixing and mastering get done elsewhere, but you can do some sort of survival mixing in it. It's okay. What I love about meeting someone who uses GarageBand is they literally just send me their GarageBand file and I produce on it because it's fully integrated with Logic. When it comes to all the free software, if you use Mac or if you have an iPhone or an iPad, I highly recommend GarageBand. It's so great. Again, there are probably so many DAWs that I'm leaving out. If I did miss any, or if you have an opinion on any of these mentioned or any other ones or any other sort of music software or anything, just please drop it in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. Also, if there's anything in this realm of conversation that you want me to touch on, like favorite plugins, do you need 1,000 plugins? Do you not? Anything like that, or how do I start doing this? Please let me know, because I can literally talk about this stuff like all day, as I've just done with literally choosing software. But the TLDR is there is no right or wrong DAW. Some of them have some strengths, some of them have some weaknesses, but they all relatively do the same thing. You can pretty much do the same thing in all of them. Most plugins and stuff work well in all of them. Just sometimes they're limited by system requirements. Sometimes they're limited by certain parameters that you might have internalized in your own workflow, or certain parameters of things that you want to get done. Like, for example, nowadays some DAWs have a stem splitter function, other do not. Back in the day when I was learning Logic Pro, I was disappointed to find out that it didn't have a beat grid for like manually punching in like beats. Logic Pro came out with one around, I think it was like 2020 or 2021. They came out with their own like drum machine designer pad thing, and now I don't even use it. Now I just manually lay stuff out or program them with MIDI and call it a day. So again, we all have our own needs as creators. There are many options out there in the sea of the internet, and just be informed. Make sure you look up stuff. Make sure you maybe get a demo to see if the workflow is right for you. And there's nothing wrong with making a switch if you want to. I've been tempted to do the switch to Ableton, even in my current professional career, with all of my experience and love that I've put into especially Logic Pro. But again, thank you guys for watching. If there's anything I left out or anything you want to talk about, just drop it in the comments. As always, have a great rest of your day. Take care of yourselves.